Welcome to Shapify Experiences, a media web podcast. Today our guest, João Carvalho. Welcome, João.
Thank you, Nelson, for the invite. My name is João Carvalho. I'm a director of solution engineering at OutSystems. So what we do here is help developers that want to evaluate the platform to have help and be able to build whatever they want to build with the platform. So it's mixing the technology portion of OutSystems with the human touch to provide the best experience that we have for our developers.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you give a brief introduction about yourself and your background before you get into this position in OutSystems?
Yes, I can. So I came from a developer-heavy background. So I started even when I was still in college with a part-time in a consultancy firm building a CMDB. So it's one of the ITIL's tools. Because I understood that college alone wouldn't get me where I want to be, because it wasn't clear to me how to bridge the gap between what I was learning with the actual reality. So that's what the part-time helped a lot. And then I started moving through different positions because I always found that technology in some situations was creating more stress than the problems it was resolving. And I was trying to understand where in this landscape of jobs that we have in the IT I would better fit. So I did consultancy at KPMG. I work at a petrochemical plant, so was part of a team of people that were producing a powder called PTA. It's in the value chain of plastic, so I was part of the IT department, working with SAP, all the reporting and BI tools. And that's where I got a touch of OutSystems back in 2012. We adopted the platform to solve some problems that we had internally, regulatory mainly.
First you use OutSystems in the company that you were working?
Yes. So first I was a customer before joining OutSystems. Then I moved my life all the way to Sinj. So I left Lisbon. I was living in Sinj for quite some time, I think 7-8 years or so. And then, first kid, changes in life. The company passed through a complex financial process as well. And I had to find a solution, and that's where OutSystems came in. I joined the professional services as a delivery manager. So I was leading the technical side for a project. So being main developer, tech lead / architect. So it was like a combination of roles. And then I was invited to this position of the pre-sales world. I started as a solution architect in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And then in 2019, I got the challenge to create this new team, which is the solution engineering team. It had a lot of cool internal names. Now we settle on solution architecture at scale, because that's what we're doing. We're applying pre-sales with an at-scale motion. And that's how I got here. It was like I really found this place where I can talk and geek out about the platform that I really like. And I do see that in all the places that I've been in the IT landscape, this is where we are making IT simple and removing barriers to entry on the technology, as it seems. And now with the new wave of AI, this becomes even... Because I do think that AI... Yes, it solves a lot of problems, but it's a next level of complexity that we need to have.
Completely.
And the average Joe might be wondering how the hell I do this and where should I enter and where should I start. And I do think there's an angle here where platform like OutSystems can really help lower that barrier to entry and help getting to value way fast.
Yeah, you actually already answered kind of one of my other questions. That is what made you choose OutSystems at that time, what was attracted at the time. You already explained a little bit. Can you, at that time was a different world.
Yes,
also.
It was a completely different world. So in 2012, for the ones that know the platform, we not even had the cloud. So you had to install the community edition on-prem and use it in your own data center. So the problem back then was that the company I was working for called Heartland PTA. Now it was bought by Indorama, but they operate a factory plant, a chemical plant that is Seviso level. So Seviso is one of the highest or the most restrict levels of security that exists. Not security, sorry, safety that exists, which means that if a severe problem or severe issue happens with the factory, the wave of impact might go all the way up to 50 kilometers of radius. Okay. So it's from Sines to Setúbal for the ones that are in Portugal, which means there are a lot of compliance and regulations that we need to comply with. So we had back then most of our operation software based in what's called DCS, which is a Honeywell technology, all the administrative finance logistics in SAP. But then there were these two gaps. So first, addressing incidents and modifications. So there needs to be a tracking of any accidents or near accidents that happen. They need to be investigated, the root cause identified, and measures to fix those issues need to be recorded and tracked and all that, so that we can show to auditors that yes, we tracked the incidents and we made sure that they will not happen again. And the second is modifications. You might choose to do a change on the technology, on the actual factory, but you need to track, you need to explain why, we need to, again, have evidence of that you are not just changing for the sake of cutting costs, you're changing because there's a technical reason for that, and you are not making the factory less secure or environmental less or more polluted in this case. And the other angle was about the time that the integration with the tax authority in Portugal started happening, so for invoices and transport docs, and we were at peak production. So we had trucks 24/7 going in and out the factory, coming out full of containers with the powder that we were producing. We had 2 loading docks that would load the container in 15 to 30 minutes. So you can imagine the volume of trucks in and out. And we need to be able to issue transport documents in real time in a place that is not technology friendly. So it's an ATEX environment, meaning there's a lot of powder in the air that explodes. So again, a lot of regulations, and we need to find a way to have like a secure way to get a transport document that is integrated with the tax authority. So we used the Zebra printer, which was ATEX, connected by cable to a computer that was running an integration with an OutSystems app. So that computer was controlling the balances on where the truck is, the printer, so and the mechanism to start filling the container and stop filling the container based on the weight and all those kind of stuff. Then when it was over and he had the weight of the vehicle without any load, the weight of the vehicle with the load and all that, you could integrate with OutSystems, get a transfer document, and get the code to print on a Zebra printer. Then you also could, on the reception, to go to this OutSystems app and print the A4 document if for some reason that printer had an issue, fundamentally. So those were the 2 angles where we started, and then all of a sudden we have 12 or 13 apps.
Apps difference. Yeah, that is an amazing example, because I think some people might still think if low-code is a good option for mission-critical applications, and actually is one of the best solutions for an application like that is really mission critical, and I think OutSystems does that well, because not just because it's a fast way of developing, because of the maintenance, the easy of maintenance, right? Yeah.
And I would only imagine what we could do now with agents, right?
Yeah, I'll get to that. But still without agents, do you have a sense of how much time it was possible to reduce in terms of development by using OutSystems?
It's not about time of development, it's about the possibility of doing or not doing.
Okay.
So just to have a sense, the IT department at that company was composed by 3 people. So we had someone focus on the hardware, networking, and everything on that infrastructure, because we had our own data center. We had fiber optics in connecting the offices and the factory and equipments in the factory. So it was a fairly complex infrastructure. We had around 150 employees, so we had a kind of small help desk where we also help with normal issues with printers and computers and all those sorts of things. And then we have the application side of the IT. I was on this last one, right? So I had SAP, and I was working with a third party on all the maintenance, but I still had to make sure I could translate requirements from the business, because a lot of the first requests were lack of knowledge, and we could address them internally. And then there was a lot of reporting that was needed, not only to the authorities, but internally, just to manage the day-to-day, right? So building those apps at that stage where we were just launching the platform and we had all the financial planning set in stone, we didn't have the resources to do that. It was that simple. So we either do it in spreadsheets, and we try to make sure that auditors were okay with that approach, or we didn't have a solution.
So in this case, more than reducing the time was the case of not having the system or using a tool like OutSystems to make it possible with the resources that the company have available.
So we started with the community edition, and we started growing the licensing with the number of, back then it was software units that we were consuming.
And you're touching already in the, if will be now, how will be different. Maybe that is a good thing to think about it. If we'll be creating that software now, what will be different in the process?
I think there's a world of opportunities now. I didn't have the time to really think how I would rebuild it differently, but there would be definitely the ability for. So, for example, when you have this type of internal systems, there's one thing that is always hard when you have high volume of documents, and you need to either extract them, or you need to print them, or you need to show to auditors or stuff like that, which is searching and filtering and go through pages and stuff. So that's a use case that I would definitely use an agent to, I need to address this, give me all these documents, and that's it. And you will do the search, you will find, it will show me. But I think on the operational level, there's cool initiatives that we could bring in to make sure that we have a bit more intelligence on what we were doing. Things like, for example, if for some reason you were filling a container and need to stop and restart again, right? The whole process will, at that time, the way the setup was built, meant we would be creating a new filling, what we call a new filling, meaning we had the first one with off container and the second with another off container. We could have an agent try to find these errors and combine this kind of stuff and make sure that we have one document, which is the reality. There's one truck with one container. For the incidents and modifications, I think there's even a better solution there where agents could clearly identify. So knowing the plant, knowing the different areas, knowing that who needs to be involved and stuff like that, it could automatically create the investigation team. That was something I didn't mention, but both incidents and modifications had an investigation team, which typically we spend a lot of time trying to find the right person, right? And we typically start with the boss of the area that then selects or appoints someone to get involved on that, which then says, well, this is very specific, I need that person to get in. So there's an angle there where you could have the agent just automatically selecting the right persons and bring them in. And then at the end, generating the documentation for auditors and all that. It's still heavy lifting of creating the PDFs, and the PDFs are very strict with the templates and all that. And today is very simple to just, I need this information, just fill everything in, just put the logo there. I don't care if I have the right pixel and the right width and the right height. doesn't matter. So just create them on the fly, and the agent could also do that very well. This is just talking about the processes that we had back then. I'm sure now there's a lot of other requirements where we could go even further with the type of agentic.
I agree. Still about agentic. So this is not now the new kind of era of development. OutSystems is being adapted to this new way of creating software. What do you think? What do you think the future of software development? Like I used to tell a kind of example of the iceberg. Like in the back or before agentic development, I think the lower part of the iceberg was already like the backend. If you consider like the backend, the top part is like the UI. I think this top part is kind of getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and the backend growing. Because if you are every time creating more agents that automate part of the systems, the things start being more automatic. More things became in the backend, more things became automatic, and the interface might be just a confirmation or something like that. What do you think about this?
That's a big question. I'm going to slice in parts. So first of all, I do think the promise of developers not being needed in the future, it's either very long in the future or never true. As we discussed, artisans will always exist. Even today, we buy our sneakers online, and they are built in a factory by robots. But if we want a fancy shoe, we're going to buy a handmade shoe. So I do think there's an angle where really innovative and top-edge software will always need developers to build. Okay, that's a top 1% of software. It doesn't
they probably will be evolving. They will do different things, but
exactly.
They will still be necessary.
So that's one part. The other part is, well, AI has the potential to create even more sprawl of technologies that needs to be managed. Will we have an agent managing some agents? Maybe. But what about the big picture? So I do think that side of making sure that the architecture still makes sense. The agents that come from, imagine that you use different technologies for different agents, right? You might have different levels of security for the data that you have, and different technology supporting agents only able to access some security level of your data. How do you ensure that this is still true? So there needs to be observability and the capacity of understanding what the agents are doing, right? I cannot have a loan denied and not be able to answer the person that comes to my branch asking why the loan was denied, right? I need to have the why. So I need to have observability. I need to understand what's happening. I need to have visibility over what the decision the agents are doing, right? And it gets complex with a lot of agents. And then we also need to actually build those agents that you can argue, well, but agent could build agents. Yes, but in a high compliance world, if you think about enterprises, banking, insurance, healthcare, defense, would you really rely on a non-deterministic thing to build or make the topmost critical decision for your business? Probably not. So I do think that, and then the last one is, you still need to consume these agents or whatever form that they have. The interface between the human and the agent needs to evolve, right? We've been using web, or we've been using fat clients in the past, then web, then mobile. Now we have voice. Are we going to stick with voice? Because sometimes I don't want to be talking. Sometimes I want to just have some ideas and just sum those ideas together and then input somewhere. So what will be this new thing? And when you can argue again, well, but the agent can think about whatever that UI it is. But I ask, will it be? Or Will it still be a human or a creative human that needs to think how to combine all these things into one? And then yes, delegate to an engine to execute. Probably yes.
Yeah, I think that part is a good example about what agents will not be able to do well. Like they are trained with a lot of data. They can replicate the things that they learn. They can create solutions based on the things that they learn. But the example of how will be the interfaces in the future, how we will interact with agents, is something that is still not defined. It's something that the world is trying to understand what will be the best way of interaction. So the agent cannot guess that also, because doesn't have any knowledge about that doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. We need to still to test. And actually, I think this is a good point. The way of defining the best way of interaction with this kind of new technology will be by testing. We will be testing multiple things, and then the feedback of the things that will work start being more used and used.
Correct. But I think you can also have the argument that one day the agents will be able to do that and test that and all that. Eventually. Let's assume that eventually we'll get there. We are not there yet, definitely. So I don't know how long, I don't know when we'll get there. The reality is, and things are changing so fast that it's probably not wise to predict. But as of today, I don't feel that we are there. So when you go to vibe coding tools and you try to build any type of UI, if you try 10, 15 different use cases, you'll start seeing patterns. There are patterns that will start to surface. Colors will change and this kind of stuff, but the UI pattern will be fairly simple, similar. And that's a problem if you are, again, a company fighting in a tough market and you need to differentiate yourself. Are you going to rely on the same patterns that everyone uses, or are you going to build something on your own? And then the answer is, and then the question, not the answer, the question is, how will you do that? Will you be doing in high code and always having like a fight with whoever is evaluating your performance, because you will always be 10, 100, 1,000 times slower than an agent, because obviously it can write way more code than you. But then when you get there, you'll build that very beautiful and cutting edge UI. Or will you build on top of something that allows you to build way faster and bridge the gap with speed with AI? Of course, we'll not get there, but at least reduce that bridge and be able not only to build faster, but when you need to come back, or someone else needs to come back, easier to understand, easier to read, because it's a visual representation of your app. I think that's the question, right? And that's where we need to see where the market is going. I do believe that I heard a session with a Gartner researcher saying that code was not built for humans, and natural language was. That's why we use it to interact with each other. We don't use language. We don't use code, right? But then when you get to natural language has lower context than so it's way more non-deterministic than code, because it has context that we understand without saying, but the machines won't, right? So if code isn't the solution and natural language creates uncertainty, we need to have a middle ground here. Something that we can translate from a natural language into that. It's easy for us to read and it's easier to understand that code. But at the same time, it's something that maps to code representation, something that works. Completely. And I do think that's where where the solution will live, at least for the near future. Again, I don't wanna predicting a future where something else will happen tomorrow. But I do feel that in the near future, companies that have compliance needs, companies that need to be innovative, companies that need to win on a market and be different than the others and test and try different approaches, but still be very fast, but still be very cost conscious, still bring the top of technology that is out there, bring AI into the game, build the agents, create workflows where you put multiple agents fighting in each other with a decision, and then one last agent that actually looks at the answers of all those 3, 5,
And
10
validate.
agents and makes the final decision. Stuff like that. Architectural patterns around agents like that are already possible and exist. If you try to make the decision of, will I use 10,000 tools and then codes and to connect all these things, or use one single platform where I can unite everything together, where I can be very agile and I can really show that I'm enterprise grade, I have level of compliance, I have control on what's happening, I know where the apps are running, I know what the agents are doing, I build a landscape of technology that is predictable. I think that's where technologies like the old low code will thrive in the future.
I agree. The thing of the visual representation of the code that OutSystems does for years, I think is really one of the things of the future. Like the other tools that are appearing now, the vibe codings, etc. You're just creating code, but then you don't have a way of seeing the code without looking to the code. You generate hundreds and hundreds of lines of code, and then if you want to explore exactly what is happening behind, you need to go to the code and see the
and
lines.
not only that, imagine that you create a prompt and it builds something.
Yeah.
And that something is 90% what you want, but there's 10% that is not. So you either looking at the end result, a page, a screen, whatever it is, and say, on the corner top right or bottom right, there's a square that I need to change, and you're trying to map a piece of code with natural language, which is not easy. And for the ones that I've tried, not all the times it really figures out exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Or the other way around is to go back to code and say, on this thing, so this button, whatever I want to change, I don't want this round, I don't want, whatever, what you want. And that will be easier. So you either understand the code that the agent built and you go down there and tell him you made a mistake there, or not a mistake, but I want to change there. Or if you stay on the natural language, it's really hard to make sure that you're changing the right thing. And it creates frustration as well. So when we talk about vibe coding be very fast and people be very fulfilling on building stuff very fast, because that's what developers want to do, right? We want to build stuff, people use it and create this, whoa, I did it, right? And if I do it faster, amazing. But then struggling with, and you get to the point that if I had access to the code, I have done this in 30 seconds.
Sometimes you get
that
slower.
creates frustration. So I do think that bridging this gap, it's not easy, right? You either, again, a very senior developer, right? And you can understand the code and go down to the place where the button is and specifically mention the behavior you want to change. But if you stay on the higher levels, it's hard to do this. But if you have this middle representation, it's way easier.
It's much easier, because even if you understand the code, after some time, like you are in an automatic way of vibe of prompting, and sometimes things happen in the background that you don't notice. Like it's just creating so much code that at some point it creates some part of code that is not necessary or that is even wrong, and it's hard to find it. At some point, it's hard to find it, and with the approach of OutSystems, the code is visual, so you easily open a page, open the multiple flows, and you can in a visual way understand what happened, and of course it can become very big, and you also need to process, but it's much more easy to process flows than to be looking to hundreds and hundreds of lines of code.
Yes, and. So, assuming that the developer job is doomed, right? Assuming that. I don't think that's true, but let's assume. So, whoever will build applications in the future will be someone that is tech savvy, but not a developer. So, doesn't really understand the primitives of code and how code and the machine interact to run an app, right? How would a person like that builds an app and does what they want it to do, make sure that from a security standpoint, the app is secure, right? Well, if you're a developer and if you're using vibe coding, you know that you need to build 3 or 4 more agents. One is the security agent, one is the code cleaning agent, and so on and so forth. And you have fights between all the agents to get the code as performant as possible, as secure as possible, and matching the business requirements you have with the lowest footprint as possible, right? But you need to understand that. You need to be able to get prompts right. So you still need developers, right? That's one side. The other side is even if that person is able to understand those type of prompts, there will be one day there will be a breach, there will be something that not even the agents found. How is that person be able to get to the actual root cause of that problem? And sometimes it's not simple. It's a combination of things, data that one day gets stored in the database in a simple way, and there's a place where you consume it with a not treated way. You put it on the screen, and now we put it on the screen and people are able to use that to inject some code and do something else. So it's not a straightforward thing, and the agent could say, yeah, the code is sound on this portion, the code is sound on this portion, but the combination of the whole thing is not.
Yeah.
Will that person be able to I don't think it will be. So that world where developer is doomed, I don't think it exists. Now, will developers, that's what I was saying before, will developers want to be always on this fight between productivity of code built by an agent and productivity of their code building manually? It's a very tense place to be, right? So that's where something else that must exist will help them be more productive, be more effective, secure them from those security issues, because the platform also has those type of security checks where it warns you, be careful, you're doing this and that might cause
that is a great point. We were talking kind of abstract about AI, live coding, etc. But one of the things that you are doing with your team is working on the developer experience on the platform. Can you maybe, for the ones that don't know so much details about OutSystems, explain how is the developer experience in OutSystems, what OutSystems help the developers do, and explain there are two main things that I'm thinking. In terms of AI, there are the mentor that helps developers create faster with AI, and then there are the agent, the workbench that is different, that is using AI to create software. Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, so starting from the team. So what we have set up here, it's something that is not normal on this type of SaaS/PaaS platform. So what I mean with this is that you typically on the go-to-market engine, you have marketing, getting people on the website, and then you have some form collecting some data. You have someone trying to call those persons and get in secure a meeting and then create an opportunity, right? Or you have the product-led kind of engine where the product is doing everything for you and people are very happy. They build the app that they want. They need a specific feature. They swipe the card and they start growing into the normal license that you have for enterprise and stuff like that. What we're doing here is slightly different because we understood that a development platform like OutSystems doesn't fit in any of these things, right? Because if you want to offer a level of enterprise-grade capability, you're intrinsically adding complexity to the platform, which makes it harder for the true product-led to actually shine for everyone, right? At the same time, the true pick up the phone for a developer won't work because I don't know if I want to have a meeting about a technology that I haven't tried, right? So to bridge this gap between these two flows, that's where we created this team and that's where we created this motion. So what we're doing here is trying to offer to developers the best of both worlds. So the best of technology and the best of human help, human support, right? And because we now have mentor and now I have agents. So this is not an OutSystems thing. It's the world is getting more complex. There's a lot of entry points to your app, a lot of decisions that you need to do. Are you going to build with code? Are you going to build with vibe coding? Are you going to store it on a SaaS? Are you going to go back to GitHub and then running elsewhere? So the complexity is way higher. The experience for the developer gets intrinsically harder as well. So it gets more important for us to provide this awesome experience. And the feedback we have from the market is that we're the only ones doing this type of thing. And people, when they are open to have this conversation, they typically react very well to the help that we're offering. So what we're doing is actually understanding what the user is trying to build and help them. Right?
Users in this case, developers.
Developers. In this case, developers, exactly. It's a good catch because we have a lot of people and users trying to use the platform. We don't want to automatically put everyone using the product because if you're a C-level, you're probably not, that's not what you're looking for. But if you're a developer, you probably want to understand what this technology is. You probably don't have a lot of time, so you don't want to spend a lot of time. And we don't want you to enter on a place assuming one thing, getting a result of that work, and creating an assumption of what the platform is that is wrong, right? So the entry point today, in our last OutSystems conference in September, 30th of September and 1st of October, we released the new OutSystems Personal Edition, right? So now we have again a new way for developers to build whatever they want. They can use Mentor, running in ODC. So they can use Mentor, they can use Agent Workbench, or they can use Studio. And all these stages, there are different levels of AI, and something new to come on this last portion of the Studio also in the near future, which is very exciting. But what we try to help is exactly what is the developer looking for, right? So are you willing to try, or are you looking to try more vibe coding capabilities of the platform? Let's start with Mentor. Let's get them a business requirement doc. Let's show how different it is to have first a blueprint of your app where you can still tweak stuff around and change before you actually implement it, click on a button, use it, but then go back to the Studio, open the app in a visual representation without looking at 10,000s of lines of code, and really understand what it's there and change that specific thing that you want, right? That's one use case. The other is, I want to understand what this agent thing is, right? And in this type of engagement is less of OutSystems technical conversation and more like an AI agent kind of discussion, right? Because it's a new concept, but we still need software architectural ideas. We still need to think, how am I going to build the agent? Will I use grounding data? Will I use function calling or MCP, whatever you want to call it? Will I integrate with a RAG? Where will I get my information? What is the format of that information? Is it consumable by the agent? Can I make some tweaks on the data that I'm ingesting to save tokens? So there's a lot. It's not just like I want an agent, right? And that part is very easy in OutSystems, and it's not to brag.
It's not just an API call. Because an API will be just the endpoint and that's it. But there is much more around.
But if you get to the implementation portion in OutSystems, I don't want to brag about it, but it's actually that simple. You don't need to explain. What you need to do is understanding what you want to do, right? So what kind of data do you have? Where do you have that data? What's the format? Do you want to use as grounding data, or do you use as function calling? Will the agent run and execute one thing and forget about the context and start again? Or will it be a longer interaction that I need to have memory? So that kind of engagement is more, I don't want to call consultancy, but kind of more an advisor discussion around, let's understand what you want to build, right? Let's understand what's the type of things you have and what's the problem you want to solve and how quick you want to solve that problem. Because again, the implementation is fairly simple. And then you also have a different type of persona, which is coming more from the low-code type of ground and coming into OutSystems as a platform now, as a mean to bridge that gap that I was talking in the beginning. Okay, I always went to code. I want to have full control of code, but I'm losing the productivity fight. right? Because now I'm in a very sensible position where I need to explain why I took 1 week to do something that an AI counterpart does in minutes. So I want to bridge that gap, and I want to learn what this thing about visual code or whatever you want to call it means for me as a developer, right? And that's what we do, right? We do believe that developers will still be a cornerstone of enterprise software. That's point number one. Point number two is innovative, super creative, top-notch UIs. You need a creative developer. You need a creative UX, UI designer that builds that interaction, and then someone that really knows how to implement with transitions and things that make it really look like a very premium experience. And then you need people in that maybe in the future we'll call something differently, but today we still call them developers. There are the ones that are looking out on what is happening, where the agent is consuming data from. Is this the right data? So kind of more a governance analyst that is looking at what's happening on my landscape and making sure that things are going the way that I want, and fine-tuning here and there, finding errors on the agent reply, tweaking the prompt, getting data in, shortening the data intake because I'm consuming a lot of tokens. So there's these three types of people that will live around a platform that I find it very hard to see a world where this is all AI and we click on a button and everything is working. Yeah. Maybe, because I don't want to be that person, maybe one day, but I find it hard in the near future that we get there. So I do think that if we keep insisting on going with high code against the machine, we are in an unfair battle. And I do think that introducing this thing in the middle, this platform in the middle, where I focus everything there. I just learned that. I just have one cloud location where I have all my code. I have one place I need to secure. I have one place of data going in and out of that thing. I can control. I have monitoring. I have governance. I have observability over agents. I have the apps and the access of users to apps and agents in one place. And I do think it's very easy and simple to solve this type of problems with the platform, and very hard if you start bringing a lot of technology to, different type of technology to address the same problem.
Yeah, you are describing all of the functionalities that OutSystems abstract for the developer experience, and I was thinking, okay, if a developer, if a team need to do all of these, even if they are using AI, okay, they can use AI to accelerate the front end, creating some code, but then they still need to have a place to store all of that code. They need to have an infrastructure, or they need to put it in cloud. They need to configure all things together. They need to worry about security and which systems they will use. So, and I still didn't talk about the AI in the platform. If they have AI, they need to integrate with external agents or models, external or they're having their own models. But the integrations, the data, all of that things, it is so many things that I would say that is impossible for unless he's a kind of a unicorn person that knows a little bit of everything, for one person to do it all. In OutSystems, it's possible for one person to do it.
Yeah,
and
the problem gets even worse, which is you actually can do part of that with AI. So you can ask the AI to create to use a CLI to integrate with an infrastructure and publish there and all the sorts of things, and they will work. The question is the blind spots, right? Again, for you to build your kids' practice app, it's going to be amazing as long as it works. Whatever the UX, amazing. From the moment where you have auditors coming in and asking questions about that, you need to be able to answer, right? And so, again, back to the topic of developers. We either have that unicorn, which is a super rare breed of developer, super senior that understands everything and can really understand what the AI is doing and point to mistakes and ask it to fix, which is, again, is very rare. It might exist, but it's rare.
Yes.
Or you have someone that is just trying to do all that without the knowledge and creating gaps. Be it security, be it stability, be it performance, be it governance, whatever it is the issue, will create gaps that probably won't be visible until
something happens.
And one day something happens, and then what? Right?
Yeah.
So again, I want to be very cautious when trying to predict anything because it's really hard today. But I do feel that developers have the opportunity to empower themselves, and instead of fighting against the AI wave, making them more powerful using it. Now it's a matter of which path do I choose. From my experience in the last 20 years, I really feel, and it's not because I work at OutSystems. Again, I was a customer in the past, so I still see the level of innovation that I saw in 2012, I still see today with experimenting and trying to build new things. And there's a different angle, which is when I bring in the platform for my company, I know that I can be safe on experimentation because I know if it's a technological bet, the platform will bring me. And if you look back to the history of the platform and the new features that were released, this has always been true. So you're always riding the wave without the risk of the experimentation, the cost, and the mistakes that might happen, and the time and all that. Learning one technology, learning one platform.
We start already on top
there.
of something that already provide all of that tools. I have just one more topic or one question. So by using to develop in our days to develop software and to include AI to automate part of the processes, I see too much this conversation around the technical part. We were just discussing here the agent and the grounding data and how to integrate things, etc. But one thing that I think is very important and maybe is not having the enough relevance is about the experience itself of the user, like for us to develop software that really solve problems that the user have, and I think some of the applications that are being developed and failing in our days is because sometimes we are integrating AI, or there are companies pushing the teams to integrate AI, but don't know exactly for what, or just pushing that there is a new technology and have a lot of potential, can automate things, but if it's not solving real pains that the users have, it probably will be something that will be in software and not getting too much attention or not being really used. So I really believe that the role of user experience, the role of a user experience designer, it's still very important, and who knows even more, because we need to give confidence to the users. We need to understand exactly what they need, and then this communication between the users, the user experience, and the technical team, I think is more important than ever, that they need to be completely aligned. So after all of this, my question is, what do you think the role of user experience? If you agree that the role of user experience it became even more important, and how you think we can bridge the gap between the technical team and actually the ones that use the system. I think sometimes they are too much apart, and if they don't talk, if they don't get really close, and once again, I think the user experience role help on that. They kind of create things that then don't have adoption, or they are not solving the real pains.
So far we've been talking about developers. Okay, developers. The way I always worked and I always seen developers enter in a world where business is already mapped into something that needs to be built, right? And developers, I don't want to minimize their impact, but they're just executing that vision, right? Of course, there's a lot of craftsmanship that needs to happen to build something that is performant. So all the topics that we've been talking so far, right? Now we're talking what happens before, right?
Yeah,
Which is a problem on its own. That you don't need AI to fix some of the problems that exist on the translation from business to technology. You don't need AI. You have technology to do that, but they have failed. I'm not sure if AI will do a better job at translating that thing, because most of times, from what I've seen, you're either creating a piece of software that is a commodity that is already out there. You're just copying because you need it, right? And that's why SaaS came in, and that's why they are so famous. But if you're building something really bespoke, very specific to your business, very different to anything else that exists on the market, this is very complex to do, right? And even if you have a business person, like someone that understands very well the problem, try to map down and write it down in natural language, the outcome of building the same thing that that person wrote will not be what that person envisioned, right? So there's a lot of steps that happen between someone make a decision that I'm not I'm building because of X, Y, Z, and the actual thing appearing, right? And the problem of translating that's why you have so many. When you look at big development teams, you have, of course, big chunk of that will be developers, but you have a lot of people around them, a lot of people. QA, the obvious, but then UX, UI, UX researchers, which are not specific designers. And then you have POs, and then you have sometimes PMs managing sets of POs, because this is really complex, because business is complex, and everything, the complexity that these things have, we try to minimize because we want to build the actual app, but the complexity around is very high.
Yeah.
So I do think that UX becomes even more important when you introduce the agent. Why? Otherwise you fall into the trap of always be talking to, you know, this I think OpenAI is saying that they will have a handheld device, something. They say there might be a pin that you're always talking with and recording. And is that something that, again, enterprise, a high compliance company wants their workers to have? Something that is recording everything, and if breached can, you know, there's a lot of angles to this. And it's not, I don't see us having a silver bullet for everything. For business to consumer kind of thing, B2C kind of thing, maybe people will use it as questions, how to get there, what's the traffic time, what's the weather, I'll answer questions, this, do that, plan my day tomorrow. Maybe it's very useful. For a business scenario, I'm not sure it is. So the question then is, how do I interact with this thing? Is it typing, like those pop-ups with AI sprinkled or dust over everywhere, and then it replies back in text? Do I speak and it writes? Do I write and it speaks? Or do I click on buttons and in the end I have an agent doing stuff? I think in the end will be a mix of all that. And that's why, again, gets very complex. And that's why, again, I also think that UX as a concept, as developers, will also need to transform in a way. And the same happens with developers, right? If you're a developer that goes to Stack Overflow, copies code from this, and just joins, and that's it, your value today is diminished. Because, again, that code is out there. The machine will do it faster than you. You're not adding anything much, right? The same with a UX designer that goes to Dribble, copies the stuff, and builds an UI that's already out there. Maybe you're not adding a lot of value. But if you are that very curious UX UI that goes into the first meetings about that problem that you're trying to solve. Really ask the tough questions. Who will be using, where, clicking on when, how, are they standing, sitting, are they hands sweaty, are they, it's warm, it's cold. Those type of things that really change the way we interact with the system and the thing that we're trying to build, and really fine tune for that. That's where the value of the UX will come. And again, this is going to be a repetition. I don't want to predict the future, but I find it hard for you to be able to get all these inputs to AI and be able to build this very custom experience to your exact scenario of someone with heavy gloves filling a container in the middle of dust, powder dust that is falling from the silo, and you're using some heavy button somewhere, and then there's an agent there
that gets all of that. Yeah,
because sometimes you need to resort to physical things. Sometimes you need to have buttons that people smash to do stuff, and it's not beautiful UI, right?
But
that you touch. You just you have a heavy glove, you need to smash a button to on, off, alt, or whatever it is, right? And you still need to interact with that interface. And it's not fancy, but it does the job, right? Yeah. Will the AI tell you to build a box with 4 buttons with a red, green, and yellow button?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think every like now that the code or the systems getting faster to developer, the developers can create some things faster, or that it became easy to create something unique. Creating the right thing, it became more important, right? Like if everyone have access to tools that help you create things faster, then became even more important to differentiate yourself and to go deep in the requirements, go deep in the needs of the user. And the thing that I was saying about the user experience guy is kind of that. Like if we just are in a rush and just create software without going on these details, then will be something equal to that the other teams are doing, or it's not properly creating value to the company. Also, while you were talking, I was thinking, actually, the role of UX designer and the role of developer, they kind of going in the same direction, I believe, because the developer, if the developer do faster their job, one of the things that you need to start worried is about the right thing to do. And at the same time, the designer that should be worried about the right thing to do need to care about how to do it. Yeah. So they kind of start going in the same direction. Maybe in the future, they will be the same person in some case.
I find it hard to be honest.
Not really the same, but they kind of became one guy more technical, other guy more experienced, but more similar than in our days.
Yes, closer than today.
Yes.
But the main difference I see from my experience, the main difference I see when interacting with UX designers is the creative, and I'm going to say a cliche, but the out-of-the-box way of thinking. In like, when we're used to building software over and over, and you going into very projects, you get into the first... At OutSystems we use an approach which is the initiation week, where on that week we try to collect all the information from business and try to build a blueprint for the project. And when you're very experienced on building projects, you get to a point that okay, I heard that, I know how to do that, and you're like trying to assemble the box rather than be creative, right? So you're trying to be efficient, like, okay, for that I will have that problem, and there's the security issue because of that. So you're thinking more on the operational as a developer. The UX is that person on the side that is trying to break all that.
Yes.
And try to challenge all that thing.
Challenge new things.
And try to break the whole thing, and like, oh my God, why are you asking that question? But in the end, makes a lot of sense to challenge because we get into a standardization mindset. I think that's common for technical people to get into this standardization mindset, and UX needs to always be that person that no, it's the other way around. And that fight it's a very helpful fight. That's why I see it very hard to be inside the same person. I believe it needs to be split. But one of the things that you were talking about is a very counterintuitive thing, but I do agree, which is in a world where things are speeding up, you need to slow down, which is interesting, right? Because if everyone is doing the same thing and doing very fast, you really need to be very thoughtful about what you're doing, right? And make sure that whatever you're investing your time is really the thing, like the solution. And I think that's an interesting challenge for a developer, right? Because when we go back to a day-to-day of a developer, right? And if you ask, I will bet most of them don't like to do the repetitive parts of their job, right? Doing the same UI, doing a table, doing a button that clicks. That thing is boring. But they do like when they have like a scenario where you're working, for example, a project that I was involved in a utilities company where you're producing electricity on the building, and the owner of the building needs to invoice to the tenants, right? And so you need to have a way to collect in your system all the measures of all the solar panels of all the buildings that you have, and receiving those measures every 15 minutes in 3 readings, because you have 3 phases, right? And be able to get that in, and okay, I can have a lot of volume, so I need to have a queue, and then how do I digest this queue? This is the type of problem people want to solve, right? And I do feel that AI will get us more time to solve those problems, right? And make our day-to-day more fulfilling.
Completely.
We're solving the hard things that it's not that no one ever thought about, but they are not common, right? So we're working on the bespoke new things. Because that's, I think, what gets us... That's the fun part. That's the fun part. That's what gets us into IT. I think everyone that started here as thinking about having a career here as a kid, back in the day, were playing with, I don't know, videotapes or disassembling small electronics. Because we do like to understand and build this stuff. If you're in a
fabric,
exactly. If you're in a production plant, just putting here there, that's not very challenging, right? That's not very cool. And that's when people talk about, oh, AI is going to steal our jobs. I'm not going to say it won't happen to some professions. I don't want to say that there will be less developer positions in the future. But the problem is that we don't have enough developers today. So why not turning this around, right? And using the developers we have, the good developers we have, to do the hard stuff, and the bread and butter, let the AI do it, right?
Completely.
It will do it way faster than us. It will not get bored. And eventually it will introduce some things that, because we were just on this mindset of repeating, we haven't challenged ourselves to do. And maybe it will introduce some new stuff that we haven't thought about. Like, whoa, that's actually a good idea. Great. And let's focus on the hard things.
The hard part. And even in the hard, it can help us a little bit. But in the hard is the part that we are challenging the status quo.
Exactly.
So our input is much more important on that part.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Now the challenge today, being the devil's advocate, is understanding if the market understands this. I do think that, as every transformational moment, I do think we're going to lean too much in one direction to then shift back to the center again. Because when speaking with people that are on the other side of the fence, which is, I have a business, it might not be an IT business, it might be something else, where IT plays an important role, right? I provide either channels or means of production or execution of day-to-day activities. And I'm posed with the question, where should I invest? What should I do, right? Everyone has budgets for AI. What should I do? Should I buy a top-end LLM? Should I build agents?
And once again, the slowing down and the understanding the problems that you have, like not just doing things with AI by doing, understanding really what problems my company have. What things will make me in the next level, and then validate if AI can help on that.
Yes, and I do think that the more senior and cautious professionals are doing this, right? Trying to understand, okay, if I put $1 in, how long will I take to get $1 out of that investment?
Actually,
right?
we didn't talk on the return of investment. Is very important.
Yes, and I do think that today it's almost creating like a AI anxiety rush where everyone is running because now everyone has budgets for AI because boards talk about AI, so they allocate budget for AI. So now I need to spend. Where will I spend? Will I spend on something doing trial and error, and I'll come back and say, well, we tried trial and error, and there's one thing that worked. Great. Or will I be intentional, try to identify the problem where I could shrink time, shrink cost, be more accurate, which are the typical patterns where AI is very good, right? Making it faster, make it more accurate, remove subjectivity of decisions, right? If it is a rule, let's follow a rule and that's it. And there's no subjectivity, no one breaking the rule and deciding otherwise. And then building something to address that thing and then measure and then identify where I'll get that dollar out. And the challenge now is, will the market go in that direction? Or will the market go on the direction of AI sprawl and buying everything and try everything? And I hope the market goes on the direction of intentional investment. Otherwise, people will get in the tough spot in 2 years, right? Because someone will ask, so where did that money went? Well, we've been trying, we've been testing, but this thing is hard. You're like, I don't care. If I put
it need to go to that direction, because at the end it might happen. Like if it doesn't go at first time to that direction, it will happen. It will just
be forced.
That companies will just spend budget, not having any results. And then they will or stop spending budget. Actually, that is not an option also, because if they stop investing on AI, they will be outdated.
Exactly.
So if they invest in AI but not in the right place, at some point they need to shift to understand where is the really value points that AI can help.
And it really feels from literature, from testing, from analysts, that the agent is that thing. Right? We're finally rolling around something. We've been, as we were talking, we've been walking without a road for 2-3 years now, meaning we don't know where to go. And we're finally starting to see that maybe there's a lighthouse there, which is the concept of the agent, which is something that we can implement relatively easy. It can consume data from our systems. It can replace a step in the workflow, or replace time, replace complexity, increase accuracy, whatever it is the problem we're solving, in a fairly deterministic way, because you can put some guardrails around. You can observe what it is doing. You can monitor what it is doing. You can continue iterating and evolving. So it feels like that this is finally the path for AI ROI, in the sense of I can invest on something using AI to really solve a problem. But again, it's a very scattered market today, right? And for me to build an agent today, depending on where I am in my IT landscape, might be easier or harder, right? If I'm an OutSystems customer, for example, today it's super, super, super simple. And I don't know if customers even understand how simple it is to today even test out in one app, even if it's just doing the same thing as the human for some time for us to get confidence. It's super simple to build that thing. So they are on the topmost, because if I now need to bring in an agent platform, integrate with the systems that I have, and depending on my level of compliancy and where I operate, it might be hard to understand, okay, now I need to send data to that platform. Well, that platform will live. Is in their own cloud, is in mine. Again, guardrails around data flowing in and out systems. Then do I need to cipher data in transit? Did it need to be secure? It doesn't. Then how do I observe? How do I get the logs from the agent into my central platform logs or whatever logging tool that I have? And how can I recreate the steps? So it's not only the thing of building the agent, but the effort, I think, the way I see it, is more around the whole
completely.
thing for the agent.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's maybe an opportunity for technology or companies that were low-code skeptic, right, to finally get into this world, because they will centralize the agent on a thing that they can observe and they can see,
That they
right?
can
And yeah, it's what we believe it's one of our bigger advantages is that fact of unify everything, be able to very agile change and iterate and continue evolving on top of something that enterprises trust.
That's already robust.
There is robust, there is compliant, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I think is a good takeaway of this episode today. So just recapping the last thing. So the agentic software, I think, is this future is getting easy with platforms as OutSystems to create them. The difficulty part still is what to do with it. Depends so much on each business, on each situation. So it became easy to make the agent, but what the agent should do to solve a specific problem. I think we talk much more about other things, but I think this is one of the...
Yeah, it's a good takeaway. Yeah, it's a good way to close. It was a pleasure being here, to be honest. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you for being here. And it was really good to have this conversation with you.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.